The sleek silver ship cut through Earth's atmosphere like a knife. Inside, Fleet Commander Zarvex of the Galactic Hegemony stood by the view screen, his forearms clasped behind his back. His scaled skin shimmered in the artificial light as he watched the blue planet grow larger. "Primitive," he said to his second-in-command. "Their ships barely reached their own moon 50 years ago." Officer Krell nodded, his compound eyes reflecting the image of Earth multiple times. "Yes, Commander. Their faster-than-light drive appears to have been a lucky discovery, rather than the result of planned research. And yet the Council insists we assess them properly," Zarvex said. "Standard protocol for all newly discovered spacefaring species." "The hegemony has rules for a reason, sir," Krell replied. "Though I doubt these humans will pose any challenge to our dominance." Zarvex turned away from the view screen. At 7 feet tall, he towered over most of his crew. His people, the Valshir, had conquered dozens of star systems over centuries. They had never lost a war. "Prepare the diplomatic shuttle," he ordered. "I will complete this assessment quickly. The humans have agreed to show me their primary military training facility. Will you require a security detail, sir?" Zarvex made a clicking sound that served as laughter among his kind. "For humans? I think not." The shuttle landed on a wide green field at the West Point Military Academy. A small group of humans waited nearby, standing in a neat row. Zarvex studied them through the viewport. They were smaller than he expected, soft-looking creatures, with no obvious natural defenses. "Pitiful," he muttered as the shuttle doors opened. A human female stepped forward as Zarvex emerged from the shuttle. She wore a crisp uniform with various colored markers that probably indicated rank. "Fleet Commander Zarvex," she said with a small bow. "I am Captain Olivia Reeves. On behalf of the United Earth Government, welcome to Earth." The translator device at Zarvex's throat converted her speech instantly. He touched the device to reply. His own clicking language transformed into human English. "Captain Reeves, I appreciate your world's cooperation with the hegemony's assessment." Olivia smiled. "We're honored by your visit. We see this as an opportunity to establish peaceful relations with your advanced civilization." Zarvex nodded, though he knew the truth. The hegemony had no interest in peaceful relations. They wanted to know if Earth would be worth conquering, or if humans could serve some useful purpose as a client species. "I look forward to observing your training methods," he said. "The hegemony must determine if humans are ready for full membership in the galactic community." "Of course," Olivia replied. "Let me show you our facilities. We've prepared a tour that should give you a good understanding of how we train our military personnel." She turned and led him toward a large stone building. Zarvex followed, studying the grounds as they walked. Everything seemed orderly but basic. Groups of young humans in matching clothes moved between buildings. They appeared calm, almost passive. "These are your warriors?" Zarvex asked, pointing to a group passing by. "Cadets," Olivia corrected. "Students. They're learning to become officers in our military." "They seem soft," Zarvex observed. "In the hegemony, warrior training begins at birth." Olivia's expression didn't change. "Different cultures, different methods, Commander. We find our approach works well for us." They entered the main building where an older human male waited. "Commander, this is General Aalien Wright, the Academy Superintendent," Olivia said. The general extended his hand, then seemed to remember that Valshir did not touch casually. He pulled it back and nodded instead. "Welcome to West Point, Commander Zarvex," he said. "This institution has trained military leaders for over 250 years. "That is impressive for such a young species," Zarvex said, trying to sound diplomatic. In truth, the Valshir military academies had existed for thousands of years. The general smiled. "We try our best with what we have. Captain Reeves will show you around. I hope you find the tour educational." After the general left, Olivia led Zarvex through wide hallways lined with pictures of past human conflicts. "These images show battles?" Zarvex asked, stopping to examine one. "Yes. Earth has a long history of warfare," Olivia explained. "This painting depicts a battle from what we call the American Civil War, about 160 years ago." Zarvex studied the primitive weapons and tactics shown in the image. Your species fought itself? Many times, Olivia said simply. Interesting, Zarvex replied. Perhaps humans were more aggressive than they appeared. Still, fighting with such basic weapons was hardly impressive. They continued through the building, visiting classrooms where young humans studied various subjects. What are they learning? Zarvex asked as they looked through a window at a group of cadets bent over electronic devices. Strategy, tactics, military history, leadership, Olivia listed. Also science, engineering, languages, ethics. Ethics? Zarvex couldn't hide his surprise. What place does ethics have in warrior training? Olivia gave him a careful look. We believe strong ethical foundations make better officers and better decisions in combat situations. This concept was foreign to Zarvex. Valshir warriors were taught to win at any cost. The idea of placing limits on warfare seemed foolish, as they walked across the campus grounds. Zarvex noticed that the cadets they passed now watched him with more interest. Their eyes followed him, assessing. He felt a strange discomfort under their gaze. Your students stare, he noted. They're curious, Olivia said. You're the first alien visitor most of them have ever seen. They approached a large building with the sound of physical activity coming from inside. This is one of our training facilities, Olivia explained as they entered. Inside, groups of cadets were engaged in various forms of combat practice. Zarvex watched as young humans grappled with each other on padded mats. Others practiced with staffs or padded weapons. The movements seemed basic but effective. Hand to hand. Combat remains important despite your technological advancement, he asked. We believe a warrior should never rely solely on technology, Olivia said. The body is the first weapon, the mind the most important. Zarvex was about to reply when a loud alarm suddenly blared across the campus. The cadets in the training room immediately stopped what they were doing and moved with surprising speed toward the exits. What's happening? Zarvex demanded as the building quickly emptied. Olivia touched a device on her wrist, frowning at whatever message she received. There's been an unexpected schedule conflict, she said. A live fire exercise was supposed to be conducted on the far side of campus, but there's been a programming error in the system. Is this a problem? Zarvex asked. Olivia hesitated. Then something seemed to change in her expression. Actually, Commander, she said, this might be a valuable opportunity. For your assessment, would you like to observe an actual training exercise rather than the prepared demonstrations we had planned? Zarvex's inner eyelids flickered with interest. This might provide a more accurate view of human capabilities. Yes, he said. I would like that very much, Olivia nodded. Then follow me, we need to get to the observation deck. As they hurried across the campus, Zarvex noticed that the previously calm cadets were now moving with purpose, their relaxed demeanor replaced by focused efficiency. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt a twinge of unease. Perhaps there was more to these humans than he had first assumed. Olivia led Zarvex quickly across the campus. They entered a tall building and climbed several flights of stairs. At the top, they reached a room with large windows overlooking a wide indoor space below. This is the tactical training arena, Olivia explained as they entered the observation room. 2 other human officers were already there, looking concerned as they worked at control panels. Captain Reeves, one of them said, we can't shut down the exercise remotely. The system is running the full program. Understood, Olivia replied. She turned to Zarvex. Commander, from here we can safely observe what's happening. Zarvex moved to the window. Below he saw a complex environment with buildings, barriers, and various terrain features. Young humans were entering the area from one side, moving in small groups. They carried what appeared to be weapons. What is this exercise? He asked. An infiltration and retrieval scenario, Olivia said. These cadets must recover a target item while facing various defensive systems. Those weapons, they are not real? Zarvex asked, noting the devices the humans carried. They fire training rounds, Olivia explained. Not lethal, but painful enough to teach cadets to avoid being hit. Zarvex noticed a human male directing the cadets as they entered. Who is that? He asked, pointing. Sergeant Greg Daniels, Olivia said. He's leading this exercise. Zarvek studied the human called Greg. Unlike the younger humans, this one moved with obvious experience. The scaled pattern on Zarvek's neck darkened, a sign of increased interest among his species. He is a warrior who has seen actual combat, Zarvek stated. It wasn't a question. Olivia glanced at him. Yes. Sergeant Daniels served in several conflicts, including the Mars Rebellion. You have fought on other planets in your system? We had some disagreements with our Mars colonists a few years ago, Olivia said carefully. Below, the exercise began in earnest. The cadets moved deeper into the training ground, using hand signals to communicate silently. They moved from cover to cover with surprising discipline. Suddenly, panels in the walls opened and automated defense systems emerged. Turrets swiveled toward the cadets and began firing glowing projectiles. Zarvek's expected chaos. In hegemony training, young warriors would typically scatter when faced with unexpected threats. But these humans did not panic. Instead, they quickly adapted their formation. Impressive reaction time, Zarvek said, almost to himself. Standard first-year training, Olivia replied. First year? Zarvek turned to her in surprise. These are novices? Most are 18 or 19 years old, Olivia confirmed. They've been at the academy less than 1 year. Zarvek returned his attention to the scene below. A small group of cadets had split from the main formation and was circling behind one of the automated turrets. A female human moved ahead of the others, sliding beneath the turret's field of fire. Who is that one? Zarvek asked, pointing to the female cadet. Cadet Samantha Miller, Olivia said after checking a display screen. First year from the state of Ohio. Zarvek watched as Samantha reached the base of the turret. With quick, precise movements, she used a small tool to open a panel. She worked for a few seconds, then slid away just as the turret powered down. She disabled it, Zarvek said, unable to hide his surprise. How did a novice warrior know how to do that? Basic electronics, Olivia said with a small shrug. All cadets received technical training alongside combat skills. The exercise continued below. The cadets encountered more defensive systems, some firing projectiles, others releasing what appeared to be gas clouds. Each time, the young humans adapted their approach. In the hegemony, Zarvek said slowly, warriors do not begin specialized, training until they reach maturity, equivalent to about 30 of your years. Different methods, as I said, Olivia replied. And at what age do humans typically first enter combat? It varies, Olivia said. Some join the military as young as 18. You send children to war? Zarvek's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of distress. We consider them adults, Olivia corrected him. Old enough to make their own choices. Zarvek fell silent, watching the exercise with new interest. The cadets had reached the center of the training ground, where a small building stood. 2 cadets took positions outside while 3 more entered the structure. They seek the target inside that building? Zarvek asked. Yes, Olivia confirmed, but it won't be easy to retrieve. As if on cue, an alarm sounded and red lights flashed throughout the training ground. More defensive systems activated, including what appeared to be robotic opponents that emerged from hidden doors. The cadets outside the building immediately engaged these new threats, providing cover for their teammates inside. Zarvek noted their firing discipline, controlled bursts rather than wasteful continuous fire. Their accuracy is unexpected, he said. We emphasize efficiency, Olivia explained. Ammunition is valuable. Minutes later, the cadets emerged from the building with a small container. They moved swiftly toward the extraction point, their formation tight and defensive. One of the cadets was hit by a projectile and fell. Zarvek expected the others to continue without him. That would be the logical choice. In hegemony training, those who fell were left behind. Instead, 2 cadets provided covering fire while another dragged the fallen human back into formation. They slowed their pace but continued as a complete unit. Why do they not leave the damaged one? Zarvek asked. It delays their escape, Olivia looked at him strangely. We don't leave our people behind, Commander. Even when it threatens the mission? Especially then, Olivia said firmly. The mission matters, but our people matter more. This concept confused Zarvex. In hegemony military doctrine, the mission always came first. Individual warriors were replaceable. Success at any cost was the only value that mattered. The cadets reached the extraction point with their injured teammate and the target container. A buzzer sounded, indicating the exercise was complete. Successful retrieval, announced one of the human officers at the control panel. Time? Olivia asked. 8 minutes, 43 seconds, the officer replied. Under the sophomore record. These are first years? Zarvex asked again, finding it difficult to believe. Yes, Olivia confirmed, though this group is performing exceptionally well today. Zarvex continued to watch as the cadets gathered around their instructors for a review of their performance. The injured cadet was now standing, apparently not seriously harmed. I would like to speak with them, Zarvex decided suddenly. Olivia hesitated. That wasn't in our planned schedule, Commander. You offered me an authentic view of your training, Zarvex reminded her. I wish to understand directly from these young warriors. After a brief communication with her superiors, Olivia nodded. Very well. We can meet them once they've completed their debriefing. As they left the observation room, Zarvex reviewed what he had seen. These humans began military training much earlier than the hegemony. They emphasized teamwork over individual achievement. They valued each member of their unit enough to risk mission failure. Most concerning of all, they were effective. The cadets had completed their objective despite unexpected challenges. They had adapted quickly to changing threats. Perhaps the preliminary reports about humanity had been correct after all. Perhaps there was something to fear here. Captain Reeves, Zarvex said as they descended the stairs. I would also like to learn more about human military history. Of course, Olivia replied. We have an excellent museum on campus. We can visit there after you meet the cadets. Zarvex nodded, his 4 hands clasped tightly behind his back. The assessment of humanity was proving more complex than he had anticipated. He needed more information before making his report to the Hegemony High Command. And for the first time in his long military career, Fleet Commander Zarvex felt a twinge of what humans might call worry. After meeting with the cadets, Zarvex walked alongside Olivia toward the Academy's museum. The brief conversation with the young humans had disturbed him more than he cared to admit. Their eyes held a determination he rarely saw even in seasoned hegemony warriors. When he asked why they chose military service, their answers were simple but powerful. To protect my family, one said. To serve something greater than myself, said another. Because freedom isn't free, a third replied, using a phrase Zarvex's translator struggled to interpret. Now, as they entered the museum building, Zarvex tried to organize his thoughts. The Valshir believed in genetic superiority and natural dominance. Warriors fought for glory and advancement within the rigid hierarchy of their society. The concept of fighting for abstract ideals like freedom or family was foreign to him. This museum contains artifacts and displays covering Earth's military history, Olivia explained as they walked through the entrance. We can follow the exhibits in chronological order, or focus on specific periods that interest you. From the beginning, Zarvex decided, I wish to understand how your species developed its unusual approach to warfare. The first exhibits showed primitive humans using simple stone tools as weapons. Zarvex wasn't impressed. All species had such humble beginnings, but as they moved forward in time, he noted how quickly humans advanced their killing technology. You moved from stone to metals to gunpowder very rapidly, he observed. Necessity drives innovation, Olivia replied, and humans have never lacked for conflicts. They paused before a display showing ancient Roman legionnaires in formation. These warriors used standardized equipment and formations, Zarvex noted with approval. This, at least, was similar to hegemony tactics. Very practical. The Romans conquered much of the known world at that time, Olivia said. But even their empire eventually fell. To superior warriors? To many things. Outside invasions, yes, but also internal problems. Corruption, overextension, economic issues. This pattern repeated throughout the exhibits. Human empires rose and fell. Military technology advanced. Tactics evolved. Through it all, Zarvex noted a disturbing trend. Humans never stopped fighting, but they learned from each failure. They reached an extensive section dedicated to something called World War II. This conflict involved most of Earth, Olivia explained. It happened less than 100 years ago. Zarvex studied the displays with growing unease. The scale of the conflict was impressive for such a young species. But what truly disturbed him was a series of images showing factories. These are not military facilities, he said, pointing to pictures of civilian workers assembling aircraft and vehicles. No, Olivia confirmed. When the war began, ordinary production facilities were converted to military manufacturing. Civilian factories began producing tanks, planes, ships, and weapons within weeks. Your entire economy supported the war effort? Yes. Citizens also accepted resource rationing, less food, fuel, and materials, to support the military. Zarvex's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. In the hegemony, military production was entirely separate from civilian life. The idea that an entire species could rapidly shift its complete economic output toward war was alarming. Your civilians volunteered for these sacrifices, he asked. Most did, Olivia said. They understood what was at stake. They moved to another display, this one showing human soldiers in what appeared to be a frozen landscape. The Battle of Chosin Reservoir, Olivia explained. Our Marines were surrounded by enemy forces in temperatures far below freezing. The display included quotes from survivors describing the brutal conditions: frostbite, limited supplies, overwhelming enemy numbers. They had no chance of victory, Zarvex observed. And yet they fought through enemy lines and escaped, Olivia replied. Not only that, they brought their dead with them, rather than leave the bodies behind. Zarvex found this concept difficult to understand. Why risk the living for the dead? Olivia looked at him directly. Because we believe every warrior deserves to return home, one way or another. They continued through the museum, with Zarvex, growing increasingly quiet. The exhibits showed conflict after conflict spanning continents and centuries. Humans fought for territory, for resources, for political ideologies, for religious beliefs, sometimes for reasons that seemed to make no logical sense at all. They reached a section on something called guerrilla warfare. The displays showed small groups of fighters opposing much larger, better-equipped military forces. These are not conventional warriors, Zarvex noted, studying images of civilians with improvised weapons. No, Olivia agreed. These are resistance fighters, people who continued fighting even after their formal military was defeated. Why? Zarvex asked, genuinely puzzled. Once defeat is clear, continued resistance is illogical. Humans don't always follow logic, Commander, Olivia said. Sometimes we fight because surrender is simply not acceptable, regardless of the odds. This concept was completely alien to hegemony military doctrine. The Valshir calculated odds of success and acted accordingly. If defeat was inevitable, they retreated to fight another day, or surrendered to preserve their forces. The idea of fighting with no hope of victory, simply on principle, was irrational. They reached a more recent exhibit about space-based conflicts, including the Mars Rebellion that Olivia had mentioned earlier. Your military cohesion extends beyond your homeworld, Zarvex observed. We're still learning how to manage a multi-planet society, Olivia admitted. There have been growing pains. The final exhibit showed Earth's first encounters with alien species prior to the hegemony. These meetings had been peaceful, but the display noted that Earth's military forces had been placed on high alert during each contact. You prepared for war even during peaceful exchanges, Zarvex said. We prefer peace, Olivia replied carefully. But we prepare for all possibilities. As they exited the museum, Zarvex found himself reassessing his mission. He had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species barely worth the hegemony's attention. Instead, he had discovered something much more complex and potentially dangerous. "Captain Reeves," he said as they walked back across the campus, "I understand your schedule includes showing me something called Hell Week training tomorrow." "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "Though we had planned to show you only a modified version, since the actual training is quite intense." Zarvex's four hands made a gesture of decision. "I wish to see the actual training, not a modified version." Olivia hesitated. "Commander, the full Hell Week exercises are designed to push human endurance to its limits. Some aspects might seem extreme." "I insist," Zarvex said firmly. "If I am to make an accurate assessment of human military capabilities, I must see your warriors under maximum stress." After a brief communication with her superiors, Olivia nodded. "Very well, Commander. We'll arrange for you to observe the actual Hell Week exercises tomorrow morning. I should warn you, they begin before dawn." "I will be ready," Zarvex assured her. As they parted for the evening, Zarvex returned to his private quarters in the VIP section of the campus. There he recorded his preliminary observations for the Hegemony High Command. "Humans begin military training at an early age," he noted. "They fight for abstract concepts rather than practical gains. Their entire society can quickly mobilize for war. And most concerning of all, they do not recognize defeat as a reason to stop fighting." He hesitated before adding the final observation. "I recommend caution in any future military engagement with this species. Their approach to warfare is unconventional, but potentially effective. Further assessment is required." Zarvex ended the recording, his mind troubled by what he had learned. Tomorrow would provide more insights into these strange humans and their warrior ways. He had a growing suspicion that the hegemony's initial dismissal of Earth as a minor player in galactic politics had been a serious error. Sleep did not come easily to the alien commander that night. Zarvex arrived at the training grounds well before the sun rose. The air was cold, and a light rain fell across the academy grounds. Olivia was waiting for him, along with several other human officers. "Good morning, Commander," Olivia said. "Are you sure you wish to observe the full Hell Week exercises? We can still arrange a modified demonstration." "I am here for an accurate assessment," Zarvex replied firmly. "Show me what your cadets truly endure." Olivia nodded. "Very well. Follow me." They walked to a muddy field where about 50 young humans stood in straight lines. Despite the rain and darkness, the cadets remained perfectly still at attention. Their faces showed clear signs of exhaustion. Several appeared to be shivering from the cold. "These cadets are in their 4th day of Hell Week," Olivia explained. "They have slept less than 4 hours total since it began." 4 hours in 4 days? Zarvex's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. "How are they still functioning?" "Determination," Olivia said simply. "And training." A human male approached them. He wore a distinctive hat and carried himself with unmistakable authority. "Captain Reeves," he greeted Olivia, then turned to Zarvex. "Commander, I'm Major John Kelly, lead instructor for this phase of training." "Major Kelly," Zarvex acknowledged with a small bow. "I appreciate the opportunity to observe your methods." "We're about to begin the day's first challenge," the Major said. "You'll see why we call this Hell Week." The Major turned and barked orders to the cadets. They quickly divided into teams of 6. Each team was directed to a large wooden log on the ground. "Pick up your log," the Major shouted. Each team lifted their heavy log onto their shoulders. Even in the dim light, Zarvex could see the strain on their faces. "Now move," the Major ordered. 2 miles through the obstacle course, any team that drops their log does push-ups with the log on their backs. Any team that falls behind causes everyone to start over. Move." The cadets began jogging with their logs, heading toward what appeared to be a complex obstacle course made even more challenging by rain and mud. "They carry these weights for 2 miles?" Zarvex asked. "While sleep-deprived?" "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "And this is just the warm-up." They followed at a distance, Watching as the cadets navigated through mud pits, over walls, and across water obstacles, all while carrying their heavy logs. Zarvex noticed that when smaller cadets struggled, the larger ones adjusted their positions to take more of the weight. They help each other, he noted. Why not let the weaker ones fail? It would make the task easier for the strong. Olivia looked at him strangely. Because that's not how we operate. The team succeeds together or fails together. One team dropped their log while crossing a particularly deep mud pit. Immediately the major was there, ordering them to place the log across their backs while they performed push-ups in the mud. 20 push-ups, the major shouted, and count them out loud. The exhausted cadets complied, pressing their bodies up and down in the mud while counting in unison. Their faces showed pain, but not a single one complained or gave up. And now catch up with the others, the major ordered when they finished. The team grabbed their log and ran faster to rejoin the main group. I would expect resentment, Zarvex said, watching this interaction. The failing team was punished, yet they seem more motivated. They don't want to let their teammates down, Olivia explained. The shared hardship creates stronger bonds. This concept was alien to hegemony, training, where competition between warriors was encouraged. Failure was punished by isolation and shame, not by shared consequences that strengthened group cohesion. The morning continued with more physical challenges. After completing the obstacle course, the cadets moved to a lake where they were ordered to enter the cold water while continuing to hold their logs overhead. The water temperature is just above freezing, Olivia said, noting Zarvex's concern. Don't worry. We monitor their core body temperatures. We push them to their limits, not beyond. And what is the purpose of this specific suffering, Zarvex asked. To teach them that their perceived limits are not their actual limits, Olivia replied. When they think they can't go on, they discover they can go much further. After the water exercise, the cadets were finally allowed to put down their logs. They stood shivering, water dripping from their uniforms as the major addressed them. You think you're tough? He shouted. You think this is hard? This is nothing compared to what real combat will throw at you. When your friends are dying, when you haven't slept in days, when you're deep in enemy territory with no support, that's when you'll need the strength you're building today. To Zarvex's surprise, the cadets seemed to stand taller at these words. Their exhausted faces showed renewed determination. They respond positively to being told of greater hardships ahead, he observed quietly. They're learning to embrace the challenge, Olivia said. After a brief meal period where the cadets gulped down food while standing, they moved to a different training area. Here the atmosphere changed noticeably. The space contained small rooms with solid doors. What happens here? Zarvex asked, sensing the cadets' increased tension. Olivia hesitated before answering. This is where we conduct psychological warfare training. Cadets learn to withstand various interrogation techniques. You teach them to resist questioning. This was a common practice in any military, but Zarvex was curious about human methods. Among other things, Olivia said carefully, Commander, I should warn you that some of what you're about to see may be disturbing. These exercises are based on actual methods used against our personnel in past conflicts. Zarvex nodded, his curiosity growing. They entered an observation room with monitors showing the interiors of several small chambers. In each room, a cadet sat alone, subjected to different stress conditions. Some rooms were extremely cold, others blasted with painfully loud sounds. In one, a cadet stood in an awkward position, unable to move without falling. They endure this willingly? Zarvex asked. They can stop at any time by using a safe word, Olivia explained, but very few do. Zarvex's attention was drawn to one particular monitor. A male cadet was being questioned by two instructors. The young human was clearly exhausted, cold, and uncomfortable, but his eyes remained defiant. That one, Zarvex said, pointing to the monitor. He shows unusual resistance. Cadet Peter Jackson, Olivia said after checking a datapad. He's been in session for 3 hours now. Zarvex watched as the instructors continued their psychological tactics. They offered the cadet comfort in exchange for simulated intelligence, information. They tried to confuse him with false statements. They attempted to break his concentration with sudden noises and changes in temperature. Through it all, Cadet Jackson remained focused. He provided only his name, rank, and identification number, nothing more. "How long will this continue?" Zarvex asked. "Until he breaks, or until the 4-hour maximum is reached," Olivia replied. "And if he does not break?" "Then he passes this phase of training." Zarvex continued watching, fascinated by the young human's resilience. In the hegemony, warriors were certainly trained to resist questioning, but the methods were different, focused on pain tolerance rather than psychological manipulation. An hour later, the session ended. Cadet Jackson had not broken. When he emerged from the room, he was immediately surrounded by his teammates who supported him physically while offering words of encouragement. "He appears severely stressed," Zarvex noted. "Yet he joins his unit rather than seeking recovery time." "The unit is his recovery," Olivia explained. "Being with his team helps him process what he experienced." As the day's training continued, Zarvex observed more exercises designed to push the cadets beyond normal human limits. They ran carrying wounded comrades. They solved complex problems while under physical duress. They functioned as cohesive teams despite extreme fatigue. By evening, Zarvex had seen enough. He requested a private meeting with Captain Reeves before his departure the following day. "Of course, Commander," Olivia agreed. "We can meet in the Academy Gardens in the morning." As Zarvex returned to his quarters, his mind was troubled. What he had witnessed today contradicted everything the hegemony believed about humans. These were not the soft, primitive creatures described in the preliminary reports. They were something far more dangerous. Warriors who embraced suffering as a path to strength, who formed bonds that transcended individual comfort, who refused to break even when breaking seemed logical. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Zarvex feared what his report to the Hegemony High Command would contain. The next morning, Zarvex met Captain Olivia Reeves in the Academy Gardens. The space was quiet and peaceful, with neat paths winding between carefully tended plants. It seemed strangely out of place in a facility dedicated to training warriors. They sat on a stone bench beneath a flowering tree. For a moment, neither spoke. Zarvex's 4 hands were clasped tightly together, a sign of serious contemplation among his kind. "I have completed my assessment, Captain," Zarvex finally said. His voice was different now, lacking the confidence it had held when he first arrived on Earth. "And what will you report to the hegemony?" Olivia asked. Zarvex looked across the garden where cadets walked between classes. They appeared so ordinary, so harmless at a distance. "I will report that humans are not yet ready for full integration into galactic society," he said carefully. "May I ask why?" "Your species is dangerous, Captain Reeves." The words came out more bluntly than he intended, but they were true. "Dangerous?" Olivia repeated, her expression neutral. "Our technology is far behind yours. Our ships are slower, our weapons less advanced." "It is not your technology that concerns me," Zarvex replied. "It is something far more troubling." He stood and moved a few steps away, gathering his thoughts. "In the hegemony, we have a clear understanding of warfare," he explained. "We fight for territory, for resources, for status within the galactic community. Our warriors know when to advance and when to retreat. When defeat is certain, we withdraw to fight another day." "A practical approach," Olivia commented. "Yes," Zarvex agreed. "Practical. Logical." He turned to face her directly. "But humans do not fight this way. How do we fight, in your assessment?" "You fight for each other," Zarvex said, the idea still strange to him even as he expressed it. "You value each member of your military unit beyond logical measure. You accept personal suffering to prevent harm to others. You continue fighting when defeat is certain, simply because surrender is emotionally unacceptable." Olivia didn't respond, but her slight smile told Zarvex his observations were accurate. "And you begin training your warriors while they are still developing," he continued. "You instill these values from the beginning: teamwork, self-sacrifice, psychological resilience. You create warriors who do not break under pressure, who adapt to changing conditions, who innovate when faced with superior forces. Those qualities make effective soldiers, Olivia said simply. They make dangerous enemies, Zarvex corrected her. The hegemony has encountered many species, Captain. Most fight until they calculate victory is impossible, then surrender to preserve their resources and population. It is the rational choice. He paced along the garden path, his agitation visible now. But humans calculate differently. You fight even when victory is mathematically impossible, even when logic dictates surrender. Your history is filled with examples. Small forces holding against overwhelming odds, defeated armies continuing as resistance fighters, civilian populations supporting military efforts despite personal hardship. He stopped and looked directly at Olivia. I will recommend that the hegemony avoid military engagement with Earth at all costs, he said. And I will suggest establishing a wide quarantine zone around your solar system. That seems extreme for a primitive species, Olivia remarked. Captain, Zarvex said quietly. I have studied thousands of species across the galaxy. I understand warfare in all its forms, and I have never been more concerned than I am after observing humans. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. The hegemony conquers worlds, Captain Reeves. We have never failed when we committed our full military might to a target. But I fear humanity would never truly be conquered, merely contained, at tremendous, ongoing cost. Olivia remained calm, but something in her eyes changed, a flash of what might have been satisfaction. And the first time we failed to contain you would be the beginning of the end for the hegemony, Zarvex finished. He extended one hand in the human gesture of farewell that he had learned. I wish you well, Captain Reeves. For the sake of the galaxy, I hope our species finds peaceful cooperation possible. Safe travels, Commander, Olivia replied, taking his hand briefly. And thank you for your thorough assessment. An hour later, Zarvex's shuttle lifted off from the Academy grounds. From the observation platform, Olivia watched it shrink. Into the distance, General Aalien Wright joined her, his face showing restrained satisfaction. Mission successful, Captain, he said, reviewing the data from monitoring devices that had recorded all of the aliens' reactions during his visit. The hegemony will leave us alone, at least for now. He only saw a fraction of what we're capable of, Olivia noted. That's the point, the general replied with a slight smile. Always keep something in reserve. It's the oldest rule in the book. Do. You think they'll respect the quarantine zone he's recommending, sir? For now, certainly, the general said. We've bought ourselves time. Time to prepare, time to advance our technology, time to establish a stronger presence beyond Earth. And if they decide to test us anyway? Olivia asked. The general's expression hardened. Then they'll learn that Commander Zarvex underestimated us despite his concerns. As Zarvex's shuttle docked with the hegemony ship in orbit, the alien commander reviewed his final report one last time. The official recommendation to the hegemony high command was clear. Under no circumstances should humanity be provoked into war. They do not fight to win, they fight to survive, and they do not recognize defeat as a permanent state. The cost of subjugating such a species would far outweigh any possible benefit. He added a personal note at the end. And this assessment is based solely on their training methods. May we never discover what humans are truly capable of in actual warfare. With a sense of foreboding, he transmitted the report. The hegemony leadership would not be pleased. They had already factored Earth's resources into their expansion plans, but Zarvex had been their most successful fleet commander for a reason. His assessments were rarely wrong. As his ship prepared to leave Earth orbit, Zarvex stood by the view screen watching the blue planet rotate slowly below. Such an unassuming world, home to the most unsettling species he had ever encountered. Status report, he asked his second-in-command without turning from the view. All systems ready, Commander, Officer Krell replied. Course set for hegemony space. Proceed at maximum speed, Zarvex ordered. He couldn't explain the relief he felt as the engines engaged and Earth began to shrink in the distance. On the bridge of the Valshir ship, No one questioned why their commander seemed so eager to put space between themselves and the small blue planet. None of them had visited the surface. None of them had seen what humans were capable of, and if Fleet Commander Zarvex had his way, none of them ever would.